All of this is great, but I often get asked, or get told, I don't have that much time, I don't have much money. What is just the simplest thing I can do to be effective on Twitter? And so we ask the question, if you can't tell, we ask a lot of questions of ourselves at Art House. We ask the question, what's the most consistent visual pattern in successful mobile content on the platform? These 3 boxes are what we found. Seems pretty dry on the surface. If you can't tell yet, a bit of a nerd, want to jump into this, I really want to know if this is something that kind of bears itself out. So I started overlaying it on top of art. So here's Salvador Dali's The Persistence of Memory. You know, I knew this painting. I had downloaded a bunch of Google images from artwork, and I was like, let's see if this works out. Never noticed the bend in the tree before, and I was like, maybe that's super important. But then I didn't want to project too much, so I was like, let's just keep this going and see what happens here. So here we have, the sailboat. Maybe the girl holding the flowers is important. Then I looked at Washington crossing Delaware. He's looking out into like an aspirational future, and then we got people in the back of the boat that are somewhat important to this painting. Then you look at Picasso. Then Banksy, again, top right is also there. There's a fainter box in the top right. This is the opposite message from the American exceptionalism in the Washington crossing Delaware painting. But there's something kind of happening here, right? And as I continue the screen, Last Supper, looked at Raphael. I'm like, what is happening here? You look at Drive, look at movies as well. Okay, here's the thing. The important screen information is Carey Mulligan in the photograph for this particular scene, but we all want to be looking at Ryan Gosling in the mirror. So this may not exactly work out one-to-one. But then look at Moonlight, Godfather, and perhaps the most famous painting in the world. And so I had been drawing this in every conference room that Twitter has in San Francisco, New York, Atlanta, different places across the globe. And one day I was just trying to talk to our account teams, our sales teams, and say, like, this is what we need to encourage. You need to, if you're talking about creative, just get them to do this. This will improve performance for them significantly. Finally, I was getting on the elevator to go to lunch, and someone came up to me and said, why do you keep drawing an envelope in every single conference room? And I said, thank you. Went back to my desk, and it's really this simple. Fail-safe option. Who's it coming from? What's your message? Who's it going to in the middle? And have you stamped it? So here's some top performing ads on Twitter with this overlaid. With Lipton, what's Visible's message? Get better phone service. Hillshire Farm just wants to show you the food. As this continues to play out, it's not going to hit it exactly every single time, but this is a tried and true method because when we're processing an image, going back to even the attention piece at the beginning, our default mode of operation and understanding, if I'm looking out into this audience, well, for me, it's this direction because this is top left. But for you, you're starting top left, you move to the middle, then the top right, back to the middle, and then you kind of take in everything else in 13 milliseconds. So what this is doing is working with what your brain is already doing versus working against it. That's why it's so effective time and time again.